It was a bright Monday morning at Crestwood High, the kind of school where money spoke louder than morals and privilege wrapped itself around the hallways like an invisible crown. The parking lot shimmered with luxury cars, Range Rovers, BMWs, and one particularly loud red Lamborghini belonging to Brandon Keller, the richest kid in the entire school and the undisputed prince of arrogance. His father owned half the city's construction projects, and his mother chaired the school board, meaning Brandon could practically break the rules and call it school spirit. But that morning, something, or rather someone, entered his perfect little kingdom and dared to challenge the balance. Her name was Miss Elena Moore, the new English teacher. She arrived not in a fancy car, but an old silver Corolla with a dented door and quiet confidence that didn't need to announce itself. The moment she stepped out, heads turned. Her outfit was simple, black slacks, a white blouse, her hair neatly tied. But there was something magnetic about her posture, her calm, observant eyes that saw straight through facades. The students whispered, the boys smirked, and Brandon, leaning on his Lamborghini with his designer shades, grinned. Another one, he muttered to his friends. Bet she quits in a week. He had a record of driving teachers out. Last month, he'd embarrassed the chemistry teacher by spreading rumors. Before that, he'd filmed a substitute crying. It was his sport, humiliation as entertainment. But Ms. Moore wasn't like anyone he'd met. When he tried his first joke that morning, she didn't flinch. When he tried sarcasm, she responded with sharp wit that made the whole class laugh. But at him. And when he threw a crumpled paper toward her desk, she caught it mid-air without even looking up. That tiny motion made him furious. From that moment, Brandon decided she had to go. The tension built over the week. Ms. Moore's lessons were inspiring, and students who never cared before actually started participating. Even Brandon's girlfriend Chloe started paying attention in class. She liked how Ms. Moore encouraged them to speak their minds. "She's different," Chloe said once, smiling. "She makes you feel seen." Brandon hated that sentence. He wasn't used to being outshined, especially by a teacher who didn't even drive a luxury car. By Friday, his jealousy turned into obsession. He wanted to ruin her, but not in class. No, he wanted something public, something that would break her in front of everyone. That's when he came up with the idea. He'd frame her. That afternoon after school, Ms. Moore stayed behind to help a student named Daniel who was struggling with essays. Daniel came from a rough background, often bullied by kids like Brandon. She encouraged him, telling him he could win the upcoming writing contest. Little did she know, Brandon's phone was already recording from a nearby window, capturing angles meant to twist context. The next morning, a clip appeared online. It showed Ms. Moore leaning over Daniel's desk, but Brandon had edited it to make it look suspicious, like something inappropriate. The caption read, "New teacher getting too close, the Crestwood scandal." Within hours, it spread across the school. By lunchtime, whispers followed her wherever she went. Still, Ms. Moore didn't lose her composure. She knew someone had set her up, but she didn't know who. When she confronted the principal, he shrugged nervously. "The board is pressuring us," he said, avoiding her gaze. "You might have to step aside while we investigate." The board meant Brandon's mother. And that's when Brandon struck the final blow. As Ms. Moore packed her bag and walked out of the gate that afternoon, Brandon and his group were waiting, filming her with their phones. "Don't forget your resignation letter, Ms. Moore!" he yelled. Laughter erupted. She ignored them, walking steadily toward her car. That's when Brandon pulled out his phone and said loudly, "Actually, why don't we let the police handle this?" He dialed in front of everyone. "Hello, officer? Yeah, we've got a teacher here, acting weird around students. Yeah, she's trying to leave now. Better come quick." His voice was dripping with fake concern. Around him, a crowd started gathering. Students peeked through the gate, some gasping, some giggling. It felt like a movie scene, only this one was scripted by malice. Moore froze, looking around, her heart pounding. She'd done nothing wrong, but she knew how this looked. Rumors, power, appearances. In this city, truth didn't matter when money spoke first. Within minutes, a black and white patrol car pulled up. Two officers stepped out, one tall, serious-looking man in his 40s and a younger one beside him. Brandon smirked. Right on time. The taller cop, Officer Grant, looked around the crowd and then at Ms. Moore. "Ma'am, we got a report," he said calmly. "Could we talk for a second?" She nodded silently. Her voice didn't shake as she said, "A Of course, officer. Brandon interrupted loudly, making sure his camera was still rolling. That's her. She's been acting suspicious around students. We all saw it online. His friends nodded like parrots. The officer gave him a long, unreadable look before turning back to Ms. Moore. Do you have any ID, ma'am? She handed it over. Elena Moore, he read, new English teacher. He glanced again, then something flickered in his expression, a mix of surprise and recognition. But he hid it quickly. Brandon noticed and smirked, thinking the cop was on his side. Yeah, that's her. We'll give you the video evidence, Brandon added proudly. You might want to cuff her before she drives off. The younger cop stepped forward, but Officer Grant raised his hand. Wet. His tone changed firm, controlled. You said there's a video? Yeah, Brandon said, pulling out his phone. It's all over the internet. Want to see? He clicked play, grinning as he showed the edited clip. The cop watched in silence for a few seconds. Then he asked, You recorded this yourself? Brandon grinned. Of course, just doing the right thing. The cop nodded slowly. I see. He turned toward Ms. Moore again. And you're saying this is false? She met his gaze steadily. Completely fabricated. He's been targeting me since my first day. The officer looked at Brandon again. His eyes were sharp now. So you recorded a teacher without her consent, edited the footage, and shared it online. Brandon blinked, caught off guard. What? No, it's not like that. The officer didn't move. You just admitted it, son. That's invasion of privacy, possible defamation, and cyber harassment. The crowd fell silent. Laughter died instantly. Brandon's confidence wavered. Why, you don't understand? She's lying. Officer Grant stepped closer, towering over him. Son, you called us here, right? You made a false report, right? His tone grew colder. That's filing a fake complaint. That's a criminal offense. Brandon's friends started backing away. Seaman? Man? One whispered. Maybe we should delete the video. But Brandon's pride wouldn't let go. My mom's on the school board. He snapped. You can't talk to me like that. The officer stared at him for a long moment before pulling out his radio. Dispatch, we're going to need to run a check on one Brandon Keller, possible cyber harassment case. The crowd gasped. Ms. Moore's eyes widened slightly, not in vengeance, but in shock. She hadn't expected this. Brandon's smirk vanished completely. Wait, what? No, I'm the victim here, he shouted. But the officers ignored him. Hands where I can see them, Officer Grant said calmly. We'll sort this out at the station. The younger cop approached, but Brandon resisted, stumbling back.
You can't do this. My dad will destroy you,
he yelled. The officer didn't flinch. Then he can meet me at the station. The crowd was dead silent. The boy who once ruled the school now stood trembling, his expensive jacket clashing with the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off his face. Ms. Moore watched quietly, emotions swirling behind her calm expression. Part of her wanted to walk away, but she stayed, because it wasn't just about her anymore. Every student watching needed to see that arrogance could fall. The officer turned to her and said softly, Ma'am, I think you should come too. We'll need a statement. She nodded. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispering in disbelief. Some students who'd mocked her earlier now looked ashamed. Daniel ran up to her, his eyes shining. I told you truth wins, Mom. She smiled faintly. As the police car doors closed, Brandon was still shouting, but his words were muffled by the hum of the engine. Ms. Moore stood by her car, her hands clasped, feeling the weight of everything. It wasn't over. She knew powerful families didn't lose quietly. And as the sirens faded down the street, a chill ran through her. The real fight was about to begin, because in a city where influence could rewrite truth, standing up once wasn't enough. But this time, she wasn't alone. Students had seen the truth, and Brandon Keller, once untouchable, was now the talk of the town. What no one knew yet was who Officer Grant really was, and why the moment he'd read her name, his expression had changed. Because the woman standing calmly at that gate was not just any teacher. And the man who'd just arrested the rich kid had history with her. A past that would soon turn the entire school upside down.